It took me a long time to come out, and so I feel like I'm a few years behind everyone else. I'm figuring this all out.
Hello, my name is Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, the podcast that mourns the death of queer nightlife. Every episode, I talk to a different person about a venue from their past, the memories that they created there, and the people that they used to know. So, you know that cliche about being in a crowded room but still feeling entirely alone? Well, sometimes I think that the person who came up with that imagery was talking about the phenomenon of being on a dance floor in a queer bar. Because, yeah, there's a lot to celebrate there, right? Like everyone is there to be themselves for the evening, they're letting go, they're having fun, but they can also really easily be this feeling of disconnect or outsider-ness. I know that's not a word. And maybe that is all in your head and nothing but this imaginary scenario. But even if it is, it's still real, right? Well, I got to explore this and a few other things in this week's chat with Manish Mathur, who is the host of It Pod to Be You, a movie review podcast that is all about romantic films. We got together to talk about the New York bar Rush, and along the way we chat about the perils of appearing straight, narrow-minded gay men, they're in every city, and what it feels like to be the fifth wheel. And before we get going, I should say that there was something in this conversation that really resonated with me because it helped to bring a focus to something that Manish and I think, have in common, and that is not always being able to appreciate something until it's long gone. I mean, hello, listen to the podcast you're listening to. It's all about lost queer spaces and celebrating the past. Ugh, could I get more inward looking? So yeah, I want to go on the record and say that I am going to try and find ways to celebrate the moment and to be more present going forward. And I want you to hold me to that, okay? Right, enough cheese. Let's get into the episode.
It feels like another life ago that I was able to go out at midnight somewhere and stay out till 4. Where it's like now, if I'm in bed before, if I'm in bed before 11, it's great. If I have to go somewhere and I know I'll be out past midnight, it's very annoying. So I just can't. I can't imagine like this morning. I woke up at 4:45, and I'm like not by choice. I just couldn't.
Oh.
I wake up early in general. Like
Mm-hmm.
usually I wake up between like 5:30 and 6, just regularly, even on weekends,
Wow.
even when I sleep late. I just can't sleep in anymore. But there was a time in my life where I would be getting home at like 4:30, and it was wild. I really can't believe that was my life.
Why?
It just feels so long ago. I mean, I'm 34 now, or I'll be 34 this week. And I mean, that was at least 12 years ago.
Okay, so does that mean that you were just never a party animal and you threw yourself into it because you thought you had to, or you actually transitioned?
I don't think I was ever a huge party animal. I think I threw myself into it because it was fun and the people that I wanted to be around were. I mean, I think it was also an element of like, I wanted to be cool and fun like my friends were and like have those experiences. And I generally enjoyed it, but I also like knew that I wanted to be a part of it. I was still discovering my sexuality, my relationship to queerness and gay culture and what that looked like, what kind of lifestyle that was, and trying my hardest to like fit into the box of what I thought what I thought it would be like. And I was like, oh, this is the way you have to be because it's all I saw.
So fitting into the box.
Yeah.
What like shape is the box, and what does it mean to fit in the box?
When I was in college, and a lot of our friends were these like skinny, short, white theater kids, theater gays who
Mm.
like were going out all the time and they dressed really flamboyantly and they looked cool and they just seemed so like more together. And I was very awkward and I was
Hmm.
tall, I was broad shoulders, I was bigger, I was brown. And, I was like, okay, I need to be like them because that's what it is to be gay. And I think I'm still, even a decade plus later, unpacking my relationship to queerness and how to carve out my own identity and trying to understand like how to fit in, but also do I have to fit in, but also
Mm.
like do I want to fit in a little and I want to be a little conventional, a little bit like stereotypical, but also, I don't have to be that way. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
still it took me a long time to come out, and so I feel like I'm a few years behind everyone else. I'm figuring this all out.
Ah.
Um
Okay,
so
okay, I have follow up questions. I have many follow up questions. I
okay.
need to make sure I don't lose track. The
Yeah.
first one, and the least important one, is what is the most embarrassing flamboyant outfit that you wore in order to fit into the box?
That's the thing. Like, I never had the courage to, or they even like, I don't think I even knew where to get the clothes that they had. I was wearing really like very hetero clothes. Like, I was wearing like polo shirts and like baggy jeans. I was so ashamed of ashamed, I don't know. It was like I had a weird relationship with my body. So I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm not even hot enough to like wear a tank top out or
Uh,
like, because I was like, these guys are like 100 pounds smaller than I am. They're a foot shorter. They're not wearing glasses. They're attracting all these guys and having relationships and stuff. And I was like, I just don't even know like what to do here. Felt like
uh,
such a like gawky teenager,
hmm.
or such a like awkward dork. I think it was more so that I was like in my own head around this stuff because
Hmm.
obviously I was invited to go to these places and like my friends wanted me to be there and I wanted to be there and like I had fun. Like it wasn't like I was depressed wallflower or anything, but it was definitely the element of like I'm here and I'm having fun, but I'm also like
Very aware.
there's something that I can't quite attain,
Yeah.
and I'm like very aware of my differences. And
Mm.
like the club that I thought of for this podcast, Rush, was like very much very twinky, very like white, short, like what I call like drag raced gays, it was like that kind of milieu. And I didn't even know that like there were clubs and bars for that, like where like guys that looked like me would go
Yeah.
because I didn't know
Okay.
anyone that looked like me.
So, what you're saying is no embarrassing photos to share.
No, I don't think so. I mean, like the photos you'll see are of me in like very normal, like everyday going to the mall clothes and my friends looking like fabulous.
And the other thing I want to ask is probably less of a question and more of an observation, but I find it really fascinating, just picking up on something you said earlier, that for a really long time, the culture was all about looking as heterosexual as possible and trying to blend in and fit in. And then at some point it switched, and now people want to look visibly queer when they're
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And I find that really fascinating. I mean, maybe it's not surprising given advances in equality laws and ways to find people being much, much easier now than they used to be. But I still find that a really fascinating psychological shift.
Yeah, I definitely had that switch flipped for me. And something that I'm still dealing with and still trying to be like, how can I be visibly queer? Because I feel like I spent a lot of my high school pretending. I spent a lot of my college trying to tell people and coming out and having people think that I was straight a lot. And it's like weirdly pushing me back in the closet, even though I'm like,
Ah,
as someone who's like hiding something, I should be happy that I'm hiding it, but like I don't want to hide it. So
mm.
it was just very much like, oh man, a lot of just thorniness.
And what you don't want to do is slap a rainbow on everything because that is just ugh,
Yeah.
tacky.
Yeah. Right.
I'm growing to like the rainbow over time, but I remember I just had such an aversion to it for
Yeah.
such a long time.
I mean, I don't think I ever had an aversion to the rainbow. I really appreciate it as a symbol, especially as I learned more about like American queer history and kind of what it means. But I mean, I hear you that like it's definitely like a lot of these symbols feel very corporate and very mainstream now that I understand where that's coming from.
But it's not even that. Like, who can pull off a rainbow?
Oh yeah. I have a shirt somewhere that's like bright pink and it says Gaysian in like rainbow coloring. And like I've never worn it out. I think I've worn it to the gym maybe, and I've worn it at home. I've never worn it out. It just feels a little
Yeah, but
ridiculous.
there's a reason you bought it.
Yeah, and my boyfriend makes fun of me. He was like, "You just want to be some like, queer little queen or something."
What do you think's holding you back then from wearing it out in public?
Nothing. I don't think it looks very good on me for one because
Oh,
it's
okay.
the
Well,
color
there's
is kind of
that.
off and like I bought it because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna wear this and be proud and out and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's my project for the week is to to put it on and wear it somewhere.
Yeah, like this is my thing about pride parades as well. I mean, first of all, crowds, ugh,
Yeah,
crowds, but also this kind of like, it's a bit like New Year's Eve, right? Like you have to be jubilant and you have to be excited and you have to be
yeah,
like,
yeah,
whoa, whoa, energy for like 8 hours. And so I've always been really like, oh no, I can't handle that. But maybe this year, or maybe I shouldn't commit to this. No, I'm going to commit to this. Maybe this year I need to go all in and just
yeah,
become a rainbow for the day.
yeah,
And just make sure I'm wearing lots of sunscreen as well, because that's another
yeah.
problem.
I think it's really worth it for the community at large to embrace that kind of spectacle, loudness, whatever you want to call it, that like jubilance every once in a while because I think we've earned it. I mean, the fact that like there's this podcast and all these experiences and all this like mental back and forths we do, it's like we should have at least one day a year where we can just like go full out and be extreme and kind of try to let go of all those anxieties and insecurities and doubts and fears.
But what if your fear is people?
I mean, that's a separate issue, I guess.
I also, I mean, not to belabor the point, but also when you're in places like that, lots of people and not enough toilets, that's stressful.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of logistical issues there. Well, I've only been to the Pride Parade once, and I remember just feeling like really excited to be there, and then seeing some like I don't know some guy in like a mask for mask T-shirt,
What?
and I
Oh,
was like, man, that just like ruined my day. I was like, not that I wasn't like attracted to him, I wanted to hit on him. I mean,
yeah.
but it was just like, man, like that's just not why
Yeah,
we're
of all
here.
the messages of tolerance and acceptance and
Exactly.
happiness, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that kind of
oh,
dampened it,
yuck.
but I mean, it was fun. Like, I mean, it was a hassle getting home.
All right, okay, so we both need some practical things to be covered by our
Yeah,
Pride Parade
right,
organizers, and then
right.
we're in, we're good.
Exactly. Yeah,
One of the other things I want to pick up with you, you mentioned earlier that it took you a long time to come out.
yeah.
Why is that?
There are a lot of reasons. So I think I came out to myself around 19.
Oh, wow.
And it was the kind of thing where it's like, okay, I gotta like confront this.
Uh-huh.
I had a girlfriend for about 6 weeks my freshman year of college when I was 18, Heather.
Hi, Heather.
She's a flight attendant now, and it didn't work for a number of reasons.
Wait, a number of reasons. Was it not just one big
No, we
reason?
weren't compatible in general, like as
Oh, okay.
people,
Okay.
and so that yeah, but there was a big one, and but I just kind of went a thing where I'm like, I just need to like think about this and confront this. So that was around May 2008. I was 19. And then it just like slowly I started to come out to my friends. Slowly I started to come out to my cousins that I was really close to. And it took me a while to come out to my parents and my sisters, partially because I felt like they always suspected it, but that kind of made me feel worse about it.
Unpack that for me.
It I don't know. It just felt like I like didn't want to have that conversation with them about like, oh, you were right, and have them be like, well, we knew, and
Because you thought they'd be like smug about it, or
no, I don't know. It was just an uncomfortable conversation I just didn't want to have. It was something that I was just not ready for, and then also like I'm the youngest of four, and my sisters, they all, they got married and they started having kids, and there's just like I'm not the type of person to be like, hey, let's talk about me for the next hour, you know.
I do want to point out right now that you're now on a podcast where you're talking about yourself for the next
No,
hour.
I know. But I don't know if you have any siblings, but like I have three sisters, and it's sometimes just hard to like get in edgewise because like they have a lot going on. Like they got engaged and married within 2 years, all three of them, and they started having kids, and it was hard for me to find a way in to
Yeah.
kind of take the spotlight on something so big that even I was having trouble. But
And also, if I'm projecting slightly here, so correct me if I'm wrong, I'm making assumptions about you, and that's not right, but I'm going to do it anyway. If you have grown up with siblings and you're used to being the one that shrinks away to give other people more space,
yeah,
it can be really hard to then be like, oh, by the way, now I'm going to reclaim this space, or now I'm going to take up some
and
space for a
it's like
time.
something big,
Yeah.
you know. I kind of wish that my parents or my sisters would have been more expressive of supporting, LGBT. I mean, they were never homophobic,
Yeah.
but it was also the situation where I was afraid that it was going to be like, hey, it's okay except in our house,
Yeah. Yeah.
And not that I had any fear that they would like kick me out, but I just knew that that first conversation in the first few weeks would just be really uncomfortable, and I just felt like I kept avoiding it. But then as my sister started having kids and I was starting to get ready for like a serious relationship, I was like, I don't want my nieces and nephews to grow up in a world where I'm in the closet, because if they are queer themselves, I don't want them to have that experience of being closeted for too long like I did. And also, I didn't want to be one of those couples where like they're hiding a relationship for years. I know a lot of Indian couples, gay and straight, where you're hiding a relationship from your parents for years and then it's a big thing. So eventually I just decided to come out, and I mean, it was fine. Like it was a little bit of like, how come you didn't tell us? Or we've always known. And I'm like, well, maybe you should have thought about why I'm not telling you. But it's fine. They were very accepting, and it ended up being a lot easier than I imagined. And like part of me is like, man, I wish I had just come out when I was like 19. Like I think my life would have been so much different.
So this is going to sound judgy,
Uh-oh.
McJudgerson. I might have oversold it. So to me, coming out to yourself at 19 seems quite late. And you were
Yeah.
saying earlier about that was when you accepted it.
Yeah.
So did you know beforehand?
I mean, I guess I must have known. It's hard to think back to that time, actually. I think when I look back on high school, I had crushes on guys. I just didn't call it that.
Yeah, okay.
It was like, oh, I thought they were really cool. Or actually, I hated them and they're annoying,
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so passionate.
I've had friends who were like, yeah, in high school, like I was closeted, but I was like secretly hooking up with such and such people. I mean, I didn't do that. I mean, I went to a Catholic school. I didn't have this like double life, and I didn't have this, like,
But were you lingering in the underwear department whenever you went to a
yeah, like stuff
department
like
store?
that. Yeah.
So then how
you
didn't you
know,
know?
I just like, oh, everyone goes through this, or like, I just didn't know that this was something that I could be. And if I could be it, I just didn't know like how to like understand it.
And so you reconciled this part of yourself when you were 19 and
Yeah.
you were like, oh, yeah, this is a thing.
Right.
I'm a
Yeah.
gay. And at this point, you happen to be in one of the best cities in the world for exploration.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about that? And specifically Rush, because we've taken quite a while to get there. But
Yeah. I mean, Russia's like, it's just like such a funny thing that like I was saying earlier, like I just can't believe that like that was something that I did regularly. I don't know. I don't. We definitely did not go once a week. Maybe like once or twice a month, maybe. And I've had so many experiences there of like, the few times where I danced with someone, like, like grinding and like twerking on each other. It was like, man, I can't believe I did that. Like it's just so like alien to me, and
Why? What's wrong with?
it's just, I mean, I don't know. I just can't imagine doing that. It's not that I can't imagine doing that because I did it, but like, I don't know. It's just very funny to me that like I went out clubbing like regularly, and like if it wasn't there, it was like some like warehouse party in Brooklyn that I have no idea like where I was, and actually I don't even remember where Rush is. I think it must be somewhere in Chelsea, but
But so, what do you think it was about the space that allowed you to let go of your inhibitions and to grind?
yeah, I think it was the music. I think it was also being like, oh, like everyone here is kind of like me in one way. Maybe not, they don't look like me, or maybe they're not acting like me, or they're not dressed like me, but we do have this one thing in common. And like, there's no risk of me being like outed or anything because like we're all here, we're all having fun. It's like 2 a.m. in this like random place. I don't even know how we got there, but so like there was that sense, and like, but then there were also like I've had a lot of like defining moments at Rush as well. A lot of like places I feel like I'm still like unpacking and kind of figuring out what those moments felt like to me and what they mean. So I have a lot of affection for it just for that, even if there were a lot of times where I was very just like in my own head there, or trying my hardest not to be in my head.
Shall we try and unpack any of those events?
Yeah, yeah. I think the one that really sticks out to me is there was this guy in our class. So I wasn't that friends with, but he was like friends of my roommates, I guess. And he came, and we were outside, and like this is my most vivid memory of Rush actually. And we're outside, and like people are like smoking. And I'm just kind of like, it's so hot in those places. Like I just like needed some air, and I was kind of like, I think I'm ready to go home anyway. We're outside, and like we're all just kind of like standing, and this guy Patrick, I think that's his name. If it's not him and he's listening, I apologize, but he's like talking to my friends, and he was saying like, oh, okay, yeah, like you're a queen, you're a queen, you're a queen. And he comes to me and he's like, you're not a queen. And then like to another friend, he's like, and you're a queen. And I'm like, wait, why am I singled out? And like to this day, because like we weren't friends, I didn't see him that much after that. To this day, I don't know if he thought that I was straight, or if he was saying that like I'm gay, but I'm not like flamboyantly queer, or I don't know what he meant by it. And like to this day, I feel like I'm still trying to like, as we were saying earlier, like be visibly queer and like kind of prove it. And I feel like that's still something that I'm like always very self-conscious about, like appearing to be like too straight, especially when I'm in a place like that. Because nowadays, like you go to gay bars and there's usually a few straight people there, like with their friends, or just like. And so I'm like, I never want to be seen that way because it's like not who I am.
And so you've been holding on to this for all
Yeah.
these years.
And like I resented him for a long time after that.
Okay, I've got a suggestion here.
Oh no, I'm not going to talk to him about it. That's
No, shall we do
okay.
some role play where you're
Oh no.
Manish and I'm Patrick? Do you want to? You
Sure.
don't want to. No, so it's not a conversation. It's just replaying that evening,
Yeah.
okay? So let's see if I do this right. You're a queen, you're a queen, you're a queen, and yo, Manish, you're a queen. Does that help?
Yeah, sure. No, it does. And I on the other thing is like I don't know if that's exactly like how the night played out, because it's like one of those memories where I'm like I'm so sure of this memory that it might actually not be how it played out. Like sometimes like your mind can like play
Of
tricks on you like
course,
that.
yeah.
I feel like I've told this story. I'm sure I've told it to my boyfriend. I know I've told it to other friends, but it's just like one of those experiences where you're just like, I'm being singled out, but I don't quite know why. Is it my skin? Is it my body size? Is it my height? Is it the way that I'm dressed? Did you not see me with someone, so you just thought I was like the straight friend that came along? Or, it's just like I just didn't know what that meant. And I didn't also have the self-confidence and like the wherewithal to ask about it. I think if that happened now, I might be like, hey, what does that mean? But when I was like 20, 21, I think I was just like, oh, okay, like I don't belong here.
It's tough as well, though, isn't it? Because it's one of these things like, and I understand why that's upsetting and it feels really unjust that someone has made this judgment about you and feels able to just be like, meh, and splat it out on the ground. But
Right.
there's also like, if you were to bring it up and say, oh, can you explain this to me? Can you help me understand? Then they would very, very easily dismiss you and be like, it's not a big deal, just bugger off. And so
Yeah.
you're in this weird middle muddy ground.
Because, I don't assign any malice to that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, throughout in the last 12 years or, 10 years, whatever, I've replayed that moment and thought about every motivation and every meaning of it. And this guy probably was high and or drunk and or like out of it in
Mm-hmm.
some capacity. So it might not have meant anything. It could have just been like, I'm not flamboyant and like I've never been that way. I'm not like, that's typical
Or
like
even just that
kind of
he knew
thing.
everyone else better than he knew you and he didn't want to offend you.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
who knows what it was. But I also know that like I'm sure he's everyone's dealing with their own stuff and it's just one of those rare moments when like someone else's stuff and my stuff just like
Mm-hmm.
clashed in a way that affected me. And at this point it's like kind of like I don't know, I can't believe I took that so seriously, but it's also like one of my like most remembered memories from that time of just like being in a position of feeling very much like, oh wow, like I thought I was an outsider and now I kind of am in some
Yeah.
way that I don't quite understand.
Having it verified by someone external. Yeah.
Who I don't even know that well either, but who knows? But yeah, so that's
Mm.
kind of like one of those moments at Rush. But it's also like, now that I've had like a decade of dates and hookups and boyfriends and, like I've become more comfortable in my own desirability and also more discerning about who I'm attracted to and kind of understanding like what my attraction means politically, socially, like kind of like what's been dictated to me by the media and stuff
Mm.
like that. And like really unpacking like how, a lot of what I thought was my type was like just dictated by who I was around and what I was seeing and like understanding where that comes from and how to really think about that, more thoughtfully. And also knowing that like, I've been with my boyfriend now for almost 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and he has really helped my self confidence a lot.
Oh.
And yeah, I mean, it's been the most stable, solid relationship I've ever had, but also the longest. Um, I think that like now I'm more confident in a lot of ways, even as I'm still like unpacking a lot of these things and trying to
Mm.
figure it out. I mean, I don't know, I feel like it's ongoing kind of thing.
So let's pick out that a little bit more and help me to
Okay.
understand what it is you're saying. So it's about examining your biases and being aware of how those were
Yeah,
formed
yeah,
by an external
yeah.
environment.
Right.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I mean, some of the things that I remember thinking and saying when I was like 22, I'm like a little embarrassed about because they were so naive and unformed about like
Okay, what were they? Tell us.
just, just like the kind of people that I thought I'd be attracted to.
Well, and so at that age, did you have like one type?
Yeah, but it was like so, boring and
Basic?
basic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, I love a six pack, or like such color eyes or hair or whatever. But it's like, it was so narrow minded.
Mm-mm.
And I knew that it was just because of like the models I was seeing in the ads or the people that I was seeing in college. Like I said, like I went to a school that had a very robust theater program, but like, the theater gays, they all looked alike. And kind of
Yeah.
also realizing about how gay men in particular can be very narrow-minded, judgmental, hypocritical. I mean, there's definitely a subset of them who can be very clicky and
Mm.
exclusive. And I'm also like kind of realizing that like why am I so desperate to have access to that group when I can have like I can kind of create my own space and
Mm-mm.
realizing that like a lot of my own judgments came from my own self-criticism and a lot of things I didn't like about myself. I was putting back out there. So I think just like kind of doing a little bit of growing up and a little bit more self-reflection and kind of realizing like it's okay that like it's okay to have certain attractions. It's okay to explore and just like doing a lot of reading, kind of understanding more of the letters in the LGBTQ alphabet and really getting more awareness, more thoughtfulness, more knowledge about the world outside of my own little college campus.
And tying it back into what you were saying before, but I think that I took you off in another direction and we didn't get to finish the conversation. Was some of this learned through your phases?
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, like I've never dated anyone outside of online dating. I can count on one hand how many times I've approached someone like at a bar to like buy them a drink and try to flirt with them, and they accepted the drink, but they didn't flirt back. Um,
Ah,
you know how it goes.
bastards. That's the social contract. You have to flirt back if they
Yeah,
buy you
right.
a drink.
I got a couple numbers, but they never texted back, or they, whatever. But I think everyone should ask themselves a question like, who is rejecting me, and who am I rejecting? And kind of thinking about that, and like, I think if someone is really like finding themselves getting rejected constantly, then I think they should re-examine what their preferences are and really understanding like what's behind those preferences. Like remember spending a lot of times on Grinder trying to, hook up with someone that had no interest in me, trying to figure that out, and like realizing like, well, want to expand, and I want to like, honestly, just people that wanted to be with me. I was like, let me just try it and see. And when I was in college and even after college, in my like hooking up phase, I just gotta be open to new experiences and try things out, and really just like, because like if you're so limiting to yourself of like the experiences that you want to have, then for me at least, you could spend weeks just not feeling very frustrated with yourself. But the more that I was open to who I wanted to date, and just being like, okay, like we have a good conversation, like we have, like you seem like a nice person, your pictures are cute, let's just go out on a date and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of slut phases. Oh, that's not the terminology you used. What's the terminology you used?
I think hookup
Of
phase.
hooking up phase, hooking up phase. That's probably a bit more of a sanitized version.
Yeah, I mean, like I definitely have gone through those, in and out of those,
But
and
it's so healthy to figure out what you like, what you don't like, to cast the net wide. I mean, I know that makes it sound like I'm using people, but I think just like having that place to explore without all the hang-ups of maybe a relationship or maybe thinking
yeah,
of something along these lines or these lines is so beneficial to you and your development, right?
yeah. I had this realization this past weekend. I'm realizing that, I mean, I have like a couple of married friends, but I was like, oh, I'm talking to a group of people, and I'm not the single one in this group. And I'm like, this is a new experience for me that I had not realized. Because I have a whole other group of friends who all got married and settled down a lot faster than I did. And they're straight people who are now buying houses and having kids and all that fun stuff. And I was always used to being the like ninth wheel or the 13th wheel, like going to weddings alone because I wasn't given a plus one,
Ah,
or,
that's so rude when people do that.
well, I mean, I understand because it's like I do know 12 people there. So it's not like I'm alone, but I'm like, it was always a fun experience when like the DJ goes like, okay, all the couples come to the dance floor, and 12 people get up and go, and I'm like sitting there like, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to go to the bar because that's depressing. I don't want to be on my phone because that's rude. So I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, can some woman please come dance with me?
Why does it got to be a woman?
Well, it doesn't, but I just can't imagine a straight guy coming being like, hey, you're alone. Like, I mean, like, of my friends, and then can one of my female friends come and like take pity on me? Yeah, so I'm going to like a spring gala this weekend with my boyfriend for school. And I'm just excited to have a plus one. Be like,
But and so when you may had that realization, how did it feel?
honestly, I felt a little smug.
Ah.
But look, I mean, I was that single friend forever. And I put in my time being the single friend who's like, oh, I'm not seeing anyone special, or like, oh, I got ghosted again, or I broke up with someone for, XYZ reason or whatever. I think when you're the single friend, I don't know if you've had this experience, but like when you're the single friend in a group of people who are coupled off and getting married, there's always just a little bit of like this like weird tension. 'Cause it's like you don't quite fit in with them,
Yeah.
even if you're friends. And I was like, a lot of people I knew when they were single, but now they're like coupled off, and it's like they would talk about like, oh yeah, we went on a double date this time, or like we've been hanging out a lot, and I'm like, just because I'm not with someone doesn't mean you can't invite me to this kind of
Mm-mm.
stuff, you know? Or it's like I invite someone to something like, well, we're doing something with the in-laws or something. There's just like a tension there.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, see, I think the solution isn't to get into a couple yourself. It's to just dismantle our societal expectations around people coupling up.
yeah,
And I know it's probably a little less achievable than coupling up with someone, but I really don't want to spend time with your boyfriend. Like, I really don't want to spend time with your girlfriend. I'm like your friend. I'm not their friend. So, like, just don't invite me to hang out with you when you're with them. Sorry, that sounds a bit
yeah.
harsh.
No, it's valid. It's definitely valid.
But yeah, when people get into a relationship and then suddenly they come as a unit, I hate that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think my boyfriend are there yet because
Ah,
I think he resists that the way that I think you might resist it as well. Like if I wanted to go somewhere and like go out to dinner with my friends, I think he would be like, "You should go. They're your friends." And I'm like, "Well, we're not joined at the hip." But I was like, "You know, it would be kind of nice for you to like meet and talk to them and stuff." But he's not going to be that boyfriend that has to be with me at all times. Like, I know like I have some female friends where like their boyfriends are always there,
mm,
and I don't know if it's codependency, if it's mistrust. I don't know what it is, but I don't think he's ever going to be like that.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
like he and I are trying to figure out that balance of like there are times that I need him to be somewhere with me and times
Mm-hmm.
where he can stay home.
You deign it appropriate for him to stay home.
Yeah, I get yeah.
So, Rush. I realize we've not talked a lot about Rush. We talked a bit about
Yeah.
Rush. We've done well considering where I usually take people on conversations on the show. What did Rush teach you about yourself?
Um, I think it really helped me to explore my own inhibition and also to teach me to go out of my comfort zone.
Hmm.
I don't think I was ever really a true party animal, as I might have said earlier, but I wanted to explore that, and I felt that I was so nervous to do it. But I think going there also helped me like become more open to experiences, to kind of like figure out these like access points and experiences that I'm a little scared of, like whether it's the music or the people that I'm with, just that environment of like being with people in your community. So Rush, I mean, as much as there was a lot of anxiety and insecurities that came with going there, like I really do
Hmm.
value it.
And so, if you could give the 2009, 2008, 2010, whatever version of yourself a piece of advice, what would you say?
Um, it's not that I want to go back to like going clubbing like that because I don't, but I kind of wish I could time travel back and like re-experience those nights because I feel like I rushed through them. No pun intended, but I feel like it went by too fast and I didn't
Hmm.
really appreciate the singularity of those experiences. I think at the time I thought, yeah, I'm always going to be doing this. Like I'm always going to go out dancing and stuff, but I don't even know where like the clubs are now. So I kind of wish that I could like go back and like relive it and really like soak it in and appreciate the kind of once in a lifetime phase that was.
Do you have any memories of Rush or clubbing from your own queer scene that you want to share? Well, if you do, why not get in touch? I want to create the biggest online record of people's memories and stories of queer clubbing, but I need your help. Go to lostspacespodcast.com and find the section Share a Lost Space to tell me all about what it is you got up to. You can also reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where my handle is Lost Spaces Pod. Find out more about Manish by listening to It Pod to Be You wherever you stream podcasts, or give him a little follow on Twitter. His profile is at Vertigay314. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate if you took the time to subscribe, leave a review on your podcast platform, or just tell other people who you think might be interested in giving it a little listen too. My name is Kay Anderson, and you have been listening to Lost Spaces.